Before we start today's show, we just wanted to take a moment and give a huge thank you to the podcast sponsor, StreamYard. With StreamYard, you can stream directly from your browser, create a broadcast, show comments on screen, and see all of your comments in one place. With StreamYard, you can record HD video and audio. You can even go live with pre-recorded videos. Save, rewatch, and download past broadcasts. You can invite guests to your broadcast from any device. StreamYard makes it easy to run interviews, talk shows, podcasts, and so much more. You can simply get started with your own by heading on over to StreamYard.com. Now, without further ado, brought to you by Mindful Media Productions, you are now tuned into my favorite podcast, The Archives with Adam. Here is your host and my grandson, Adam.
Welcome back to another episode of The Archives with Adam, where we explore the depths of my mind and share them with you, the viewers. Today's episode promises to be a blast as I'm joined by the incredible Daniel Riordan, known for his portrayal of Turbo Man in the beloved Jingle All the Way. And yes, Howard, or I mean Arnold Schwarzenegger, was an imposter. You might be thinking, but Adam, it's not Christmas. Well, who says we can't celebrate Christmas in July? We've always heard it, Christmas in July, sales and stuff like that. So join us for the special Christmas in July edition as Turbo Man famously declares, it's turbo time. Now put the cookies down and welcome Dan Riordan to the Archives with Adam.
Hello.
Welcome.
Nice to see you, Adam.
Hey, nice to see you as well. I'm glad we're doing this. It's going to be a fun episode. I really want to kick it off with some trivia. See how well you know that movie.
Sure.
Are you up for it?
Yeah. But you're probably going to catch me out. But anyway, go ahead.
Gotcha. So the first question, Turbo Man's red suit is modeled after which action hero? Daredevil,
Yeah, go ahead.
The Flash, Deadpool, or Iron Man?
Iron Man.
It is indeed Iron Man. Yes, sir. And there's going to be multiple choice. I probably should have said that, right?
Oh, well, good. That's helping me a lot.
There you go. What state does the movie take place in? Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota, or South Dakota?
Minnesota.
There you go. And then complete the password from the scene where Howard goes and tries to buy the Turbo Man doll from the Shysters.
Right.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Batman smells, jingle bells, or Santa's here?
Jingle all the way.
It's actually Batman smells.
Oh, good.
Now, Howard, he tries to steal a gift from the neighbor. Who was the gift for? Jamie, Jake, Junior, or Johnny?
Jake Jr., right? His son.
No. Who was the son? Who did he try to steal the gift for?
It's either Jamie or Jake. I forget.
It was Jamie. Jake Lloyd is the kid that played.
Oh,
Jamie.
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Last one here. What does Howard say after finishing a call with his customers? You're my number one customer. Always happy to help. Thank you for your business, or looking forward to our next call.
You're my number one customer.
There you go. You got actually 4 out of 5, so I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Of course.
It's only been over 30 years. 30 years.
Oh,
close to 30.
Yeah. Very much so. In 2 years.
That's right.
Yep. So, man, I wanted to start off with probably a question you get asked all the time. How did you land the role of Turbo Man, and what was the audition process like for this character?
Okay. I had done a show called The Adventures of Captain Zoom in Outer Space, where I played Captain Zoom. In fact, it was a 2-hour pilot that was set to go for 20 episodes, so 26 episodes, our first season. And we were waiting on that. That was Starz and Universal had come together to create that show. And Brian Levant, who was the executive producer on Captain Zoom, he and I became friends, and we worked together obviously very closely while we were shooting Zoom. And the next year he was directing Jingle All the Way, and he wanted no one else but me to play that role. So I didn't actually have to audition. And in fact, I was on my honeymoon, and we were in the eastern Morocco on the edge of the desert, and on a camel trek in the Sahara. And we came back, and I just checked in because so much was going on with Captain Zoom. And I called the studio. I called Brian's office at Universal, and his assistants were freaking out. Oh my God, thank God you got in touch with us, because we've been trying to reach you for days. Brian's been trying to reach you for more than days, like 2 weeks. But we were all over. This is 96, so there wasn't cell phones or anything like that. And we were all over Morocco for like a month. And they said, you've got to fly in like tomorrow. And, get yourself back to Marrakesh. There'll be a plane waiting, British Airways, and it's going to bring you back in the middle of the night to LA. And there's a team standing by to put the costume, to mold the costume, because the costume had to be molded to my body, and it also had to be molded to Arnold's body. So we each had to go through this process individually, where a team came in and they put kind of like a wax, a bit of rubber, kind of almost like you're making a cast. Well, they were making a cast of our bodies. And then from there, they were able to create the costume based on that cast so that it fit perfectly. And I had to come in the middle of the night. A limousine picked me up at the airport and dashed me over to Universal. It was like 3:00 in the morning, and there was a whole team standing by on a sound stage, and they went right to work. And it took a couple of hours to get this mold, and then they dropped me off at home, and I flew out the next day back to Marrakesh to rejoin my wife on our honeymoon. And that was how I got Turbo Man.
That is an insane story. I tell you, I've heard some audition stories, but that's probably the most insane one. I mean, wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and he was holding them off. They were like, look, we got to cast somebody. So he even had auditions with other actors, but he knew he wanted to hire me, and he knew that he'd eventually find me, but they were getting very nervous and kind of resentful that he was holding back so long, but it worked out.
It did. So man, I was 6 when that movie came out, 1996. What was it like to be a part of such an iconic film? I mean, did you guys know it was going to be so iconic at that time, despite the ticket sales not reflecting that?
No, I mean, Arnold was a huge star, it still is, but at that point he was really in his prime. And the show was a great show, and it was a lot of fun. I did kind of get a hint when we went to Minneapolis to premiere the show at the Mall of America. So we all flew out there, and there was a parade in the Mall of America, and I was dressed in my Turbo Man suit, and I was the marshal of the parade, and all the stars from the movie were there. And then we had a big screening. It was the premiere screening of the movie, was in Minneapolis, and you could tell from the crowd's reaction and the amount of people that had turned out that something was going on. But I think, like a lot of Christmas movies, it really gets into the hearts of kids who are watching it at that period. They're watching it with their families. It becomes like a family tradition. People associate it with Christmas time and their childhood all wrapped up together. So that's very iconic, and it's a good movie. So it has legs. It lasted all these years. I'm always thrilled when people are excited to find out that I was in the movie. So it's been a lot of fun.
I bet. As we mentioned earlier, in just 2 years, it's going to be the 30th anniversary. I mean, it probably felt like just yesterday was the 20th anniversary. But for that, I mean, how do you think it holds up in today's society? Is it a part of your holiday movie lineup?
I watch it sometimes. I watched it with my kids when they were small. When I stumble on it, I watch it, especially if I can catch it from the beginning, because my part is really in the first 5 minutes of the movie. So when I'm it's like a show within a show. Yeah. And I got to work with some amazing people when I did that. Richard Mall, who was from Night Court, and Lorraine Newman, who was on the original cast of Saturday Night Live, and and also Harvey Korman, who was on the Carol Burnett show. So they were both like huge comedic icons in '96 when I was working on the show. And I remember saying to both of them one time, they were sitting off to the side, and I said, Harvey, you are from my childhood, like watching the Carol Burnett show when I was a kid. And Lorraine, I remember when, Saturday Night Live started and I was in high school and then college, and it became the rage as it is today. Then she was in the original cast. I was like, I cannot believe I'm working with the two of you. And they were like, you're really funny, which was one of the greatest compliments I've ever gotten working in show business. But yeah, I love it. It's the '90s were obviously a different time, and pre 9/11 and pre phones. I mean, it was just there was a comfort zone there that I think people still respond to.
Oh, without a doubt. And I mean, that's something that I've talked to a lot of my guests on previous episodes, is how the industry has changed a lot, and it shows. It really does with the the quality of movies and things like that nowadays.
Yeah, it's definitely changed.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, what have some like fan interactions you've encountered since this movie coming out, and even some of your other roles? Like, I know you've done huge backgrounding and voice acting and things like that. But do people come to you at conventions holding some Turbo Man Funko Pops and asking you to get those signed?
Oh yeah. And as a matter of fact, yes, very much so. So people bring all sorts of stuff from my Star Trek shows and from Turbo Man. People bring dolls to have me sign. I have one of the original dolls still in the box that they gave me at the time. And then just last year, a Japanese company recreated the doll and put out a new series of the original Turbo Man doll in some really great packaging. And they asked me to do the voice for the doll, because you push a button and you get Turbo Man's voice. And I did all the standards, you can always count on me, and it's turbo time. And, I recorded all that stuff and sent it to them. They're out of Japan. And then they sent me a doll. So I have several dolls now.
You still have the suit?
Yeah, I don't have the suit, but I do have the suit from Captain Zoom, which is interesting, because that's a beautiful suit too. But that one I have.
I bet.
But I did years later do a wraparound for the DVD of this is like, I want to say like 16, 17 years ago. I did a wraparound for a DVD release of Jingle All the Way. It might have been the 10-year anniversary, actually. So probably 2006. That sounds about right. And they went to the studio and they got the suit out of storage. And it was a funny bit. I was like kind of this has-been retired Turbo Man that was watering his lawn, drinking a beer, chatting with the neighbors, still wearing shreds of my suit, trying to get people to recognize me. And it was a funny bit. And Brian directed it, or was part of it. I think he okayed it, and then we went out and shot it, and they added it. So if you see the official DVD 10-year anniversary release of the show, it has that bit in it. And then recently, I did. Brian asked me to go and do an intro for a screening in, I believe, Texas, of Turbo Man at some convention or film festival. And it was a revival of the show, of the movie. And they wanted me to do, into camera, kind of a welcoming bit. So I recorded that with Brian. And that was, maybe 2 years ago I did that. So it keeps coming back.
You just can't get away from it.
Yes.
I mean, not like you probably want to anyways. I mean, it's such a great moment,
Exactly.
So I mentioned how you have a background in acting and voice acting. Plenty of big roles, even past Turbo Man. How has Turbo Man even shaped or influenced your career?
Well, it was certainly an experience of being on a really big movie at a time where money was no object, and they really treated you really well. And things have changed a little bit. The business is a little more stringent in terms of how much money they're going to spend on certain things like first class airfare, etc. But I had that experience, which was kind of the star treatment, and also I think for me it's such an iconic part of my life because, like I said, I was just getting married at the time. We were on our honeymoon. It was a lot of limousines and first class travel and premieres and working on the set with Arnold, and just it was a very fun, active time. So I enjoyed it a lot. I look back on it very fondly.
I mean, there's so many memories from that. I mean, that you've already shared. I mean, I hear you. I hear you. So as somebody that grew up in the 90s, watching Jingle All the Way, I, as a kid, wanted a Turbo Man, just like Johnny, man, right. I wish they had it at that time, or, so on and so forth. But eventually Funko remade the Turbo Man doll, and I bought one because it was exclusive to Walmart. I actually got one for my friend Sam. And yes, just like little Jamie, it was nestled under the tree, ready for him to open on Christmas Day. Was there any toys that you really wanted as a kid for Christmas? Something that, it's a little more different of a question than the movie.
Yeah. I mean, I really wanted a remote airplane, the kind that you use with a radio control, gas powered. Yeah. Like miniature airplane. I really, really wanted that when I was a kid. And instead I got the kind that has a string attached to it. And, you turn it on and then you hold it and it goes around in a circle. It wasn't the remote.
Oh, yeah.
I got I was very disappointed.
Gotcha.
I didn't get the cool remote one that my neighbor had, so I was filled with envy,
It happens. There's so many things that we all want that we don't get, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So since you starred in one of the most iconic Christmas movies, would you say, are there any 3 holiday movies that you like to watch to get you in the festive spirit?
Yeah, I do. I do enjoy Jingle All the Way when I see it. I usually try to catch it once a year. I love It's a Wonderful Life, which is kind of a darker version of a holiday movie, but it's really fun and interesting. Christmas in Connecticut is classic, especially the last scenes. So I'm going back to these older movies. I think something newer. I love Elf. I think it's a great holiday movie. It's a lot of fun, and again, it's I believe that's the 90s, isn't it? Isn't that late 90s or early 2000s?
I think it's early 2000s.
Yeah, exactly. But still, it has that great feel to it. So I really enjoy that. I love Christmas. So we go full bore. We decorate, and the kids love it, and we always throw a big Christmas party, and go up to the snow and all that. So it's been part of our tradition, definitely, to enjoy Christmas and have these iconic moments. And I'm so glad that people tell me all the time they gather around with their family, and it's like a tradition for them to watch Jingle All the Way.
It is. I mean, my friend earlier that I mentioned, Sam, him, my girlfriend, and I, we always get together starting right after Thanksgiving, and we start watching our Christmas specials because we have so many that we watch, from Jingle All the Way being one of the top ones, Elf, even Christmas Vacation, I
love Christmas Vacation. I forgot that one. I love that movie. I love Vacation, the original, and I love Christmas Vacation. Christmas Vacation is brilliant. It's so fun.
It is. So those are like on our list. We watch some of like the newer ones with like Seth Rogen, The Night Before, Office Christmas Party. We just mix it up. We have tons of favorites that we like to watch.
Yeah, it's fun. It's wholesome and it's cozy, and it's really nice to gather together and have something like that everybody kind of enjoys that. And there's a lot of sentimentality around Christmas, and certainly for me, I'm a very sentimental person when it comes to Christmas, and I love the whole atmosphere of it.
Oh, without a doubt. I've been actually telling my girlfriend constantly we need to get to Idaho. I spent a couple months in Idaho, and I tell you, and near the Boise area, and they decorate for Christmas the whole town. They have Christmas carolers. You go and to the food trucks and you're eating and drinking all the food truck foods. And it's just a great time, with the snow around. It's just amazing.
Yeah, Idaho is really pretty and very very Christmassy and picturesque in terms of the terrain. I mean, those mountains and the trees, and it's a perfect setting for Christmas.
Without a doubt. And I definitely plan to get back there someday.
It's beautiful.
So this is a bit of an Easter egg or a little hidden Arnold cameo. Not many people have known, but his face appears on some of the Turbo Man action figures shown in the movie, although he doesn't really play Turbo Man until the later parts, he gets
right
and stuff. So I think that's like a fun little Easter egg or story. But can you share any fun or memorable stories from your time on set of Jingle All the Way, or for like things that people may not know about the movie, or little things in there that we may have missed?
Sure. Number one is Arnold was always very cool, like in the makeup trailer. Very down to earth guy. He's a big teaser. He likes to tease and kind of rib you a bit. And if you give it right back to him, he cracks up. It's, he was very even handed and very open that way. And we both had to go through the experience of being on what they call picks, which are two bolts embedded in our suit right at our hips, where they could balance you and you could fly in front of a green screen. So they would suspend us on the sound stage. You'd be about 20, 30 feet off the ground, with a huge green screen behind you, and in flying position, arms and legs straight out, looking like kind of that Superman pose where you're flying. And he and I both had to do that at different times, and it was painful. It would cut into your hips, we used to tease each other about that, like, how much does that hurt you? And I'm a better superhero because I can take the pain more. And and when he would say something, everybody would be very quiet, like, and as soon as he's finished, everybody would laugh. The crew would just always crack up, like supporting whatever he said. And then when I would say something, everybody would be like hushed, because nobody joked back with him. But we were kind of playing the same role. And I already knew that he was cool in terms of, he could take it as well as he could give it. So we used to tease each other a lot when we were shooting that, because it was difficult. It wasn't, you couldn't just recreate it with CGI entirely at that time. You had to get up and be hung on these wires, and, and they're pivoting you, so you had to get just perfectly straight, and, you're up 30 feet in the air, and it was, and it took a long time. So after a while, it started to really hurt, because there's a harness under your suit that's holding these metal, what they call picks, these kind of bolts. So there was that. And also just the exterior. I remember the exterior shots, and we're doing the shots on the street. And Arnold had a beautiful director's chair, and he had this giant glass, beautiful crystal ashtray attached by the crew to the arm of the chairs for his cigars. And when he would go off to set to go into the shot or to work on the shot, he had an assistant who would draw on the cigar so that it didn't go out, so that when he came back, it was still lit, so that it didn't have that smoky, extinguished flavor. He had the fresh cigar going the whole time. I thought that was really interesting. He had actually a guy like smoking the cigar, keeping it in perfect order for him when he returned to his chair. And then so he influenced everybody. So the director also, Christopher Columbus, also had Chris Columbus also had a ashtray on his chair, which I thought was funny, because that was the 90s. Everybody was smoking cigars at that time. It was kind of all the rage. It was a big deal. So
that's funny.
Yeah. So, that's what we did. We kind of just had those chairs and had the cigars. And I started smoking cigars around that time for the same reason. It was the thing to do. And I still occasionally have one. I love them. They're delicious. And I think Arnold still smokes cigars too. So, But those are the things I remember on this off the set is those gigantic glass ashtrays attached to the director's chair. They were really nice director's chairs. They might have been made of leather, I think, as well. So they weren't your normal canvas, but yeah, it was fun.
Okay. I know I'll miss this opportunity if I don't ask. Is my buddy Sam. He's a big cigar guy, and we've gone to some cigar lounges and things like that. What's your go-to cigar?
It's Arturo Fuente.
Okay.
And it's the small gauge. I forget what they're called, but they're about this long and about the size of your finger.
Okay.
And there's about this long, and they are my favorite. They are just delicious. I love them. They have great flavor, and they're just for me the right size. I used to smoke a larger ring size, but I love the smaller cigars because they're just you're not living with them for an hour. It's more like 20 minutes to about a half an hour to finish one of those.
You just get the flavor and you're done.
Yeah, they taste great. They're easier to pack, but those are my favorites. And they come in boxes of I want to say 50 to a box, but you can buy them individually, which is another advantage. At least at my cigar shop, you don't have to buy some of the smaller cigars. You have to buy 10 at a time or even 20 at a time if they're really small. But I really like those cigars enormously. Too much.
I appreciate you sharing that. We actually just seen one recently. I mean, I'm telling you, it was like this long.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. I'm like, who even does that? Who even does that,
It's more like a novelty thing. But even the Churchills, which are really, a foot long almost. Occasionally when I'm on a camping trip, I'll bring one of those along simply because I want to sit by the fire for 2 hours and have a cigar that lasts the entire time, maybe with a glass of something. And I love to camp with my buddies and sit around the fire, and it's one of the few times I still smoke a cigar. So occasionally I'll get a larger cigar for that kind of occasion.
Okay. Well, I know we're almost to about that time. I do like to finish off with one question. I'd like to ask our guests if they had any kind of advice for folks that are looking to achieve any goals or, get into acting, how they could start out, when it comes to that, because I'm sure it's pretty grueling and, time consuming and things like that.
Yeah, it's a tough business. It's like anything else, though. Anything worth having is not easy. I think persistence is number one. You have to have talent, right? You can't, and it's hard. You can't buy that. But there's a lot of people with talent that don't have the persistence, and it's really sticking with it. And I think you just start small in your immediate world. What can I do? You do school plays, then you do maybe community theater, then maybe when you move to LA or New York, you start to get involved with the theater company and do some basic plays. You need a straight job to keep you going so that you're not broke. That kind of a survival job that's like the engine that allows you to pursue this. And you've got to throw the clock and the calendar out the window. You've got to just say, it's going to take as long as it's going to take. I'm not going to do anything else. This is my dream. I'm going to pursue it. And you stick with it. And even then it can be difficult, but without those things, you're never going to achieve it. You have to really, really focus on it and give it your all and understand that it's just going to be, a lot of work and try to enjoy the process. That's what I always say to people that are starting out in the business. You have to enjoy the present moment. So if you're in a play, enjoy that play, and enjoy the people around you, socialize. And going out after a show is one of the best memories you'll ever have with your friends after a play. It doesn't have to be that you're a star, they're limoing you around, or you're making a lot of money. It's oftentimes the littler things that you remember, just a night where the audience is really with you and you're doing something that you really love and enjoy, and that keeps you going, and a compliment from someone that matters, or even a stranger, can keep you going for another 6 months, where they're like, I'm so impressed. I love what you did. And you're so talented. That can keep you going through a lot of hard times. So I think it's just being passionate, being persistent, those two things together.
Definitely. And consistency. You're definitely going to experience the roller coaster effect of everything. You're going to hear rejection and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, totally. You're going to have a lot of hard times in terms of rejection. I mean, but it's like a lot of things, you get tougher, you get more aware, and then you challenge yourself. Like, maybe if this isn't working so well, maybe I need to do this. I need to go back to class. I need to learn to sing. I need to do a one-man show that will, showcase my talents. It's really kind of, and then so much of it is luck. I mean, so much of it is luck and timing and right place, right time. And I'd also say there's only 3 things that a professional actor really has to do, and that is be on time, know your lines, and don't be a jerk. And those things sound simple, but to do all 3 of those things can sometimes be a tall order for some people. But really, if you can do those 3, that's all that's really required of you, is to be on time, know your lines, and don't be a jerk, don't be difficult. And it's amazing how many people cannot do those 3 things. But the people that do those 3 things, who are stars even, everybody likes to work with them, and those are the people that whose careers move forward faster, because people know they're not difficult. People know that they're professional. They're going to be there when they need them. And it's such a good life, and it's such an interesting thing to do, that it's not much to ask to do these kind of basic things. Think about everybody else that does their jobs. They have to be on time. They have to work hard, or they get fired. It's the same thing with acting.
You're 100% right.
Yeah.
Now, I do thank you for coming on. Do you want to end it out with it's turbo time, or you can always count on me?
Absolutely. It's turbo time. You can always count on me.
I appreciate it.
And
thank you so much.
Adam, I got to say, it's been a great pleasure, and I think your podcast is great, and I hope you get more viewers as you go along, and I'm very honored that you had me.
I appreciate it, and I hope to have you back on in the future, maybe talk some Captain Planet, Transformers, so on and so forth, but anytime. I know you're a busy man, so we'll chat soon, all right?
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye-bye.
I just wanted to take a moment and thank the podcast sponsor, StreamYard. Without StreamYard, none of this would be possible. I also want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching this episode, whether you're streaming it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or watching on YouTube. Thank you so much, and stay tuned for many more episodes.